Supplements can be a source of incredible relief and support for some women during perimenopause, but then for other women, it can just be a source of frustration because it feels like no matter how much money you spend, no matter which products you buy, you're not getting the results that you are looking for. Now, why is that? In this video, I want to share with you two common reasons that typically get in our way and make it difficult for us to get the nutrients that we need and the results that we need from supplements. Okay. Once you understand this, it is going to completely shift your perspective of supplementation because it's very easy to think that these products are just bad or useless when you are, again, pouring so much money and time into them and not getting the relief that you are looking for. So the two things that I'm going to be talking about today is the fact that you may not be seeing results because your gut isn't in a good place or because your supplements are missing key cofactors, right? So let's dive into the details. And by the way, this guide that I'm using for this presentation, I am linking to it in the description section because at the end, I'm going to show you, I'm going to point you to this reflect area here, which you can use to just get some more insights for what is most relevant to you. So first, the gut. So your gut is responsible basically for breaking down everything that you consume, and that includes supplements. Okay, so if your gut is not in a good place, then you're definitely not getting the nutrients that you need from your supplements. All right. Now, there are a few things that could be happening in your gut and also in your digestive system that is contributing to the lack of results. So the first one could be that your gut lining is inflamed or compromised. This is basically where we hear the term leaky gut syndrome. That's what this is about, right? So your gut is supposed to have these very tight connections, and if those connections or those junctions are start to loosen up and get weaker and weaker, that is going to negatively affect your ability to get nutrients from supplements and from food as well. Also, your digestive system. So maybe you don't have even enough stomach acid, or you're not having enough like digestive enzymes to do the work that is necessary for you to pull nutrients from supplements. In addition, you could also be experiencing like an imbalance in your gut microbiome. This pretty much goes hand in hand with the first point about the leaky gut syndrome. So with the imbalanced gut microbiome, it basically means that you're not having a healthy colony of those friendly bacteria that are there to support your health or there to support proper digestion, breakdown, and absorption of nutrients. And then chronic stress, and this is a big one for us in midlife because, once you've lived 40, 50 years on this planet, you've had some time to accumulate a whole bunch of nonsense. And so the fact that, your body is going through a massive shift physically, emotionally, spiritually, and at the same time, you're also bringing in this history of just life lived on planet Earth and all that came with it, good and bad. If your body is really struggling when it comes to the emotional stress side, that can impact your physical health, your gut. It can impact it just as much as food and other chemicals can. So that is a big one. Once we get to midlife, it's the time to really start assessing how we are responding to life, how we perceive things, our relationship to ourselves, to food, to others, the whole thing. Do not underestimate it. And then lastly, also processed foods, right? So processed foods are definitely a major contributor from a nutritional perspective. Those will contribute to the inflammation in the gut. So that's a quick overview of some of the things that can happen to create basically an environment where it makes it difficult for your gut to do the good work that it knows to do. Now, what can you do about it? So the main thing is you want to make sure that you have yourself a good, solid nutritional foundation. Okay, so whole point is you have to eat every day, right? So if you have to eat, you might as well make sure that you're also eating food that supports your gut lining, that feeds that beneficial bacteria that is in your gut. Basically, that whole mantra of let food be thy medicine, it really applies here. So, because that is the only thing, right? Like The marketing will convince you that you must go take some supplements even to support your gut. But the truth of the matter is, you really want to just start with the actual food, because that is what your human body, which is part of nature, you were designed to live on food. You were not designed to live on a pill, okay? So start with food. Give yourself that solid nutritional foundation. The food has all the raw material that your body needs. Nature has already worked out all the ratios perfectly, so you don't have to do any thinking. You just got to eat it, enjoy it, have fun. Okay? Once you have that solid foundation, then you can put your supplements on top, because supplements, they are an add-on for good nutrition. They are not a substitute for it. Again, a lot of marketing might make you think that it's a substitute or that it's a shortcut. It is not. It is just something you put on top. So in the same way that you would not build, the rooms of a house without a foundation, right? It's the same thing here. If you're, you have to have a foundation for your house, and then you stack everything else on top. Same goes in this case. Have that nutritional foundation based on the food you're eating, get your gut in a good place, and then start putting on the supplements. And now the supplements have something tangible to support, something they can also rest on, again, like a foundation. Okay. And then there's also a nice side effect to this, which has to do with the fact that as you start eating more of those whole foods and just supporting your gut, you'll find that you won't need as many products. So you're spending less money, there's less guesswork, and there is just less stress, because you are now more in control of what's going on in your system. Okay, so that's the main thing that you want to kind of understand when it comes to your gut. And this whole aspect of eating, the whole foods, this is one of the reasons why, this week I made sure to add a whole bunch of recipes into my membership for my members, because it doesn't matter, what they're buying or whatever, but we've got to have that foundation. So I just threw in 47 new recipes, and every month I'm going to be putting in new recipes across the board for all eating types, right? So I don't care how people eat in my membership, whether they want to do keto or they want to do, plant-based, whatever. It's up to you. You can do whole food on all types of diets, right? So that's the whole thing, is just to make it easy for everybody. And I've got like 20-minute recipes and other things, and meal prep recipes for people who want to just cook one time and reheat through the week. So that type of resource, if you want your hands on that, I have that type of resource for you in the membership, and I have a link to that in the description as well. You can also, of course, go out to blogs. There are lots of blogs. There are lots of amazing whole food blogs. There are cookbooks. You can go on Pinterest. There's lots of different ways for you to find those recipes, because the recipes really are key, because otherwise you will get bored, right? If you're just eating the same boring salad every day, or just eating that bowl of oatmeal the same way every day, it will get boring quickly. So when I talk about recipes, it's really because on planet Earth there's a bucket of foods, but the fun and the joy happens in how we combine those foods and the different spices that we put into them. So this is where having a good set of recipes and cooking your own meals as much as you can makes such a huge difference. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is the cofactors. All right. So cofactors are basically just other nutrients that help. These are basically, nutrients. Everything in the body is like, it's a collaboration. So you've got one set of nutrients and other nutrients that help that nutrient to work properly in your system. And when you buy a supplement, you don't know what you're getting. It's the wild, wild west, right? Because there is no legal requirement to make sure that the proper cofactors are there. So a good example would be something like vitamin D, right? You can buy a vitamin D supplement that is just vitamin D. But you also need fat, for example, right, in order to properly absorb vitamin D. You also need magnesium. You also need K2. There's a lot of other nutrients, right? Vitamin K2. There's other nutrients that go hand in hand that allow vitamin D to not only be absorbed properly, but to work properly in different parts of your body. Same thing like with magnesium, you also need B6 for that. For iron, you also need vitamin C for that, right? For zinc, you need copper. So this is just how the human body works. It's an ecosystem, right? It's like it's like the soil out there. It's alive. Everything's working together, collaborating. It's been thought out for you. Supplements, when you buy them, some will come with the cofactors, some won't. So, which means, again, if it doesn't come with the cofactors, you are simply not going to get optimal results from the product. And then, if you were to combine missing cofactors with the unhealthy or inflamed gut, then now you're really struggling to get results from this product, from your products. Okay, so again, the antidote here is very similar. The remedy is very similar to the previous one, which is focus on eating whole foods more, right? Prioritize getting your nutrition from whole foods. Why? Because in nature, you don't have this issue that I've just talked about, this imbalance, right? Everything in nature is, it's a rainbow, right? And typically, everything that's there is for a purpose. And what you would typically find in whole foods is that a food that is high in iron also has vitamin C, which happens to be something that you need to improve your absorption of iron. Or a food that is rich in vitamin A will often have zinc. Now, of course, the amount will vary, okay? But the whole point is when you eat a meal, you have such a rainbow of different things together. You don't have to be doing any math. You don't have to be reading labels and trying to decipher all this thing, because that's not the point of life. We were not put on this planet for this to be the best thing we do with ourselves, which is to be reading food labels. Like, there are way better and more interesting things to do in life. But if we don't want to do that extra work, we do need to lean into the whole foods a whole lot more. Okay. So those are the two common reasons why you could be taking supplements and still not getting the results that you are seeking from them. Now, before I let you go, I would like to invite you to, like I said, click on the link to this guide, because over here I have this reflect tab, and this just has a few questions for you to sit and think about, right? So, for example, think about how solid your nutritional or food foundation is right now. So, are whole foods the base of what you eat, or are supplements filling gaps that should be filled by whole foods, right? Think about, when you buy a supplement, do you take the time to look into cofactors that need to be absorbed? Do you do research beforehand? Because, like I said, there's no legal requirement to put those cofactors in there. Okay, so even the best made supplements from the best brands, if it's not thought out properly, you're going to have most likely some cofactors missing. And this is again going to play a lot more when we're talking about like pills and capsules. Typically, maybe with things like tinctures, I would say with tinctures, you would likely have less of this problem, just because of the nature of how tinctures are made. But tinctures are also just are herbs, right? But I'm talking about when you start looking into, I'm going to go get a zinc, and I'm going to go get a magnesium, I'm going to go get a B12, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I highly recommend that you take some time to just reflect on these questions for yourself, and then really start to decide, like, if you're struggling right now and you've put a lot of money, is it time to hit pause on those supplements? Not throw them away, but hit pause, work on the foundation, work on the basics, on the whole food, even for a month, right? For 30 days, and then come back and put the supplements on, and then pay attention and see if you don't start getting even more results from the supplement simply because you've made that switch, right? So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, as always, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, share with anybody else that would benefit from this information, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.